Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and today we will be going over the events of the 16th of August. And we have a lot of news today that I want to go over. Some news that's not necessarily related to the front lines, but more so some strikes that I want to talk about that are pretty interesting, and some general news about the battles that have been occurring. So we have some news from Alexandriivka, where previously I had reported that it was fully under Russian control, and I still stand by that because there's nothing that really proves the opposite at the moment. And we did have footage that showed that they were inspecting a school that they had shelled previously, and it was used as a Ukrainian base. And now there's further footage to back that up from the basement of, I'm not sure if it's the same school or some other school, but it's a basement of a school, and there were anti-tank equipment found there. There were mortars that were found there. There was bullets that were found. So it was supposed to be an entrenched position that Ukraine would be using for a while, but they were pushed back previously. I'm not exactly sure when it was. Probably around the same time as when the town fell. And now Russia has control of the garrison and, by extension, of the rest of the town. So it's not in the best position because there's like some elevation here and it could be fired upon. So I would expect Russia to sort of try to push forward into these open fields and finally secure Lupareve, because this town is causing a lot of problems for the Russian forces around here. If Russia could just pass through this body of water, this lake over here, that's located along here, and advance towards Lupareve, this town right over here, then that would be a big success for the Russians, and we could see some potential envelopments of Mykolaiv, or at least the beginning of an advance towards Mykolaiv, which would go hand in hand with some other advances that are being attempted around Blahodatne. So I would look out for that. But for now, yeah, Alexandriivka, yet again, it's proven that it is under the Russian control. Besides that, in the Kherson region, we do have some reports of fighting around the town Shiroke, and this is from 2 days ago. So I do apologize for not mentioning it, but I was spending the past 2 days talking about the Kharkiv and Pisky situations, so that's the reason why I didn't talk about anything else that was going on. So the attack came from Lyubny, and apparently Ukraine says it was repelled, and we have no proof that Russia actually took the town. So I would say that it's still under the Ukrainian control, and that they were probably repelled. But we still have a lot of shelling towards this area that was reported even today, right before I recorded this video. So that is noteworthy, but nothing really to mention besides that in terms of the front line. Now we have some news that the Ukrainians are reporting that there are about 20,000 Russian troops along this western bank of the Dnipro River around Kherson, and that they're basically isolated because the supply lines are so heavily damaged, and that they're being abandoned by their higher ups. And at the same time, the same Ukrainian sources, they're saying that further transportation of Chechen troops to the front lines are occurring. So that sort of seems contradictory, because you'd have to have supply lines between the Dnieper River open in order to transfer those Chechen troops. So I don't know what exactly happened over there. The Antonovsky Bridge, of course, and the Novokakovka Dam. Yeah, there were strikes over there that did impede transportation, although it is still going on at a lower scale than it did previously. There's really not going to be any counteroffensive. That's sort of been admitted by the Ukrainian officials as well. That it was more so like a psychological affair to sort of bring Russian troops towards this area of the front line, just to waste the resources. But then the counter argument to that from the Russian sources is that Ukraine, they did pour in a lot of troops to this area, and now there's really isn't uh, any success that has been achieved by those troops. So it was actually a real possibility that they would try to launch an offensive, but that failed, at least according to what the Russians said. You look at the situation and you can come to your own conclusion about what you believe regarding that. Besides that, we have to go to the Zaporizhia front, where there was a brimstone missile fired at an Vuhledar, and the direction of the strike, which I have the geolocation linked over here, if you want to look through it on my map. It was coming from the northeastern direction, so probably from like the area of Maharnets, maybe, or one of these other towns on the the bank of the Dnieper River around here. And it did explode near the nuclear power plant, although I'm not sure if it did cause damage to the plant itself. There has been a lot of fires in the Unit 6 of the power plant in recent days. So, again, this situation hasn't really been ameliorated as of yet, although I do hope that the shelling here and the fighting around the power plant does stop, of course. Now, there were um, like a lot of talks of explosions in this town called Jankoy over here. And the thing is, I don't have the specific geolocation, so I apologize for that. I'll add it in whenever I finish this recording the video and I start moving the map around, and I'll find the geolocation and everything. I'll add it in, of course. And what's being said is that there were two explosions in the area, and that around 2,000 residents were evacuated from this entire area. A military warehouse was targeted by quote unquote sabotage, according to the Russian officials. And there was damage to the power lines, to the power plant, to the railway track. And the Russians, they say that there were two injuries around here. Now, this is, again, very reminiscent of what happened at the Saki airfield. So this is not a coincidence. Obviously, there is some sort of coordination going on in Ukraine with the FSB and the special forces, and my bad, not FSB, SBU and their special forces. And the SBU, they've had a shakeup in recent days. Zelensky, he just fired the heads of the SBU in Kiev and in Lviv and in Ternopil. So there is some changes there, and the SBU has recently been coordinating these attacks behind the enemy lines, like we saw in Saki, like we saw in right now with this incident, and in one other incident I will talk about at the end of the video. So it is pretty conspicuous to all of us that there is some coordination going on with between the Ukrainians. They are committing these sabotage acts, and they have been sort of effective. We've seen that a lot of Russian equipment, even now, probably some ammo depot was destroyed in the area, and a lot of the infrastructure in the area was destroyed, of course. So clearly, they've done some damage, and according to some anonymous Ukrainian officials, the group behind this is a special elite unit that Ukraine has organized, and that they're the ones committing these acts. So I'm sure we'll see more of this in the future, and Russia, they have to respond in some manner to prevent the further disruption of their supply lines and of their equipment, or else it could really hamper their own offensives that they're conducting at the moment. Now, besides that, we don't have much from the Zaporizhia area, so I will move on to the Vuhledar front, where we have some news. I did make some shuffles to the map based on some research I did. So this entire area is still under the Ukrainian control, so I do apologize for having it as under Russian control. What matters more is that there was new fighting around Pavlivka and Vuhledar. So previously, the front line was around here, and Russia they did push forward towards these two towns, and there were some strikes on Vuhledar specifically, and now there's fighting around the outskirts of the towns, although the Russians have not entered the area just yet. And these two towns are very important. They are a linchpin for the Ukrainian defense around here, because once these two towns fall, there's barely any other towns in the area before reaching these chains of towns around Novomikhailivka, which is another important town. And then you can see a serious advance in the direction of Kharkiv, where you have a lot of the Ukrainian command for this area centered, and a lot of the higher ups in this area of Kharkiv, they've already fled towards the city Dnipro. So that is interesting. I'll update, of course, the situation around Vuhledar when we get more information. Around Novomikhailivka, we have heard news of the Russians entering the outskirts of the town, although most of it is under Ukrainian control. There's fighting going on around here, and the supply lines to Kostiantynivka, which is a town that's sort of supplying Novomikhailivka, is being hampered right now. This is the road over here, and Russia is attacking this road via Marinka. They're going down to here along Drewsby Avenue, and they're attacking this other town called Pobjeda, and it is pretty small, so you can see it fall pretty quickly if there's a frontal attack. And then you could see some sort of flanking operation on the entrenched Ukrainian forces around the Novomikhailivka. But yeah, just you know that there is fighting around here right now, and that there is a pretty harsh battle. So look out for what's going on over there. In Novelske, which is around 7 kilometers from Pisky, there's renewed reports that the town is under the control of the Russians, but I don't believe this because there was some shelling of the area by Russian forces and some airstrikes around here, so it's probably not under their control. But they are very close, and they've been fighting in this open area for the past few days, and they made some progress. And I would expect them to take the town over soon. But once it does, it is a key town, as they talked about before. When people say that it's under the control of the Russians, they might mean that it's under fire control. So just know that it is possible that Russia does have some fire control over here, and that they can control the retreat of the Ukrainians. If they try to reach, like, this road over here, they can sort of destroy their retreating garrison with their artillery, which Russia is really behind the artillery, while DPR is like the 11th, I think it's called the 11th Brigade, and then the Somali Battalion. They're doing a lot of the dirty work in the front lines themselves in this area. I did get some new geolocations from Syriac Maps and some other guys that I have linked over here. I have, of course, the description showing the links so you can look through at the videos. And this is proof that Russia does not actually have control of this highway over here, of the junction between the E50 road and then this road over here, and then this other road and this road. So they probably don't have control of the bridge either, just based off of that, just because of how close it is to the point that was shelled. Although I might be wrong about that. Maybe the situation by the time that you're watching this is different, and Russia does actually hold control over this area. And once they do, they can then cut off the Ukrainians in this plant breeding area and advance towards Pervomaiske. There was some other shelling reported around here, but now Russia does control this area. The footage is from about a day ago or so, but now Pisky is basically under full Ukrainian, Russian control. I have some other footage of shelling from here. Pretty sure. Uh, there's some shelling over here, in between Vodiane and Pisky. So this is very close to the front line at the moment. It's possible that Russia is reaching this area at this very moment because it's not that far. It's like a walking distance, and then you can see the Battle of Vodiane later on. Now we also have some geolocations here from Spartak. We have a Russian advance around here. I did have the front line around here for a while, just based on the fact that um, the mine area around here, south of Avdiivka, was announced to be under the control of Russia. So I did uh, give these two like areas with houses to the Russians, and I still stand by that because it is possible that Russia is releasing earlier footage, or that they're releasing footage that's not exactly from the front lines, but pretty close to it, just because they don't want to give away positions, for instance. So they're just showing this forested area around here. You have some trees around here. Um, Around Opitny, it is very possible that the Russians will reach this road around here, which would disrupt the supply lines for the Ukrainians. If it's even possible to transport from here anymore, it probably isn't because of the Russian artillery. So perhaps the road between Opitny and Vodiane around here is being used instead. Anyway, I don't see a frontal assault on Avdiivka occurring anytime soon. I had to adjust my map based on some new shelling that was released by the Russians uh, over here and over here. And of course, I have to thank Syriac Maps for actually finding the geolocations for this. He and some other accounts do an insane job at this. So I do have to change my marking of Kamyanka to contested based on that fact. And I also gave all of these parts that were east of the road over here, west of the road, to Ukraine based on that. But it's not much of a difference. There's still some heavy fighting around Avdiivka, and Russia is like slowly and methodically advancing in these forested areas, but at a pretty slow pace, of course. So I don't see any fighting in the city itself occurring anytime soon, just based off of that. Besides that, we don't have much news from this area of fighting. Just some talk from Donetsk, where Russia is firing heavily into Zalizhny. Some sources did say that Zalizhny had fallen, or there was fighting in there, but that would sort of imply that Pivdene is under the control of the Russians when it isn't at the moment. So what's more likely is that Russia is just very heavily shelling this area in preparation for some attacks around here, and this is backed up by the fact that for last night there were 6 hours of shelling in the city Donetsk, and the Russians, they report about 300 Ukrainian casualties around here, and that's pretty high, even if it's not true. 6 hours of shelling nonstop doesn't indicate some sort of Russian offensive plan around here. Just maybe not capture Donetsk because it is a very large city, but to at least advance closer towards the city, and probably capturing the suburbs around here, maybe turning down and going to New York. That's always possible. We also had some news from the front line around Bakhmut. The Wagner group, they announced that they had full control of Bershina after they said that there was heavy fighting there for many weeks. Vershina, look at Vershina. It's a very small town. There's barely any houses around here to see. So the fact that there was heavy fighting here for weeks, according to the Wagner group, is pretty crazy. Um, there's not many positions that the Ukrainians could have taken up during the defense of this town, besides the houses around here. So I am interested to see what will happen now around Zaitsev, where my map, it's not supposed to be exact. When I have this as the map, I'm not necessarily saying that all of this is under the Russian control. It probably isn't at this point, given the fact that Wagner just announced that Zaitsev is being attacked after Vrishina falls. So maybe it looks more like this. I'll have to change it based on that. Same thing applies to Vesela Dolina. Although Vesela Dolina is a smaller town and it should fall faster than Zaitsev, just given the fact that there's not much to even fight over here. If in Pisky the Russians can utilize the thermal barrack weapons because the civilians have fled, and I think the same thing can apply to this town, to Zaitsev, because there's probably little to no civilians located in this entire area. No real news in the Bakhmut area that I can talk about as of now. Um, just the same usual fighting on the outskirts, which I think is necessary because if Russia entered, which they can enter at the moment, they can push in, but the cost would be so heavy that it wouldn't be worth it. It would be a Pyrrhic victory. It would be not a good idea. It's better to stay on the outskirts and shell it incessantly, break the Ukrainian defenses, and then go in once they're battered to such an extent that the defensive actions that they take aren't as severe and they're forced to withdraw quickly. So that's why you saw last night 150 missiles were launched at Bakhmut and there were huge fires in the town. And this is only the beginning. It's going to keep on getting more and more fierce around here. So look out for that. In Soledar, there was confirmation by the Russians that the Knauf plant is under their control. We saw some video footage from there, and there was also a image posted by the Russians of this broken house, and it was showing their point of view pretty close to the front lines, and it was geolocated to right outside of the Knauf plant over here. Although I would say, just based on the fact that the quarry area and the remnants of the plant over here, the fact that they are under Russian control, it does indicate that the line of contact is still around here. And I do expect to see footage from there because there was a bit of a delay in between the official confirmation that Knauf plant fell and the footage being released. I think that's purposeful on the Russian side. I don't think that implies that this area is still under the Ukrainian control, or this area either. But I would welcome some footage released by the Russians in this area. In Bakhmutske, the situation is a bit ambiguous. I did have it marked as under the control of Russia, but it is certainly possible that Ukraine does have a presence in this area around here. I have to look to make sure that the Russians aren't shelling it and that this entire area is confirmed to be under the control of the Russians, because I did hear about that from some pretty reputable sources, and it is possible, but Rybar, I'm pretty sure that they don't even have it marked as under the control of the Russians. So the situation there is a bit ambiguous. But I would say that if the line of contact is around here, it would make sense that the line of contact would extend to here. But of course, it is possible that it's actually like this. That's something that happens in the fog of war, of course. I apologize for that, of course. Now, in Yakovlivka, there's talk that Russia is attacking from the eastern flank. They've made some advances around the open fields around here recently. I kept this part as under Russian control. It might just be not inhabited by anyone at the moment. neither the Russians or the Ukrainians, just because it is in the center of a lot of fighting. You have the Russians around here firing towards here, and it is possible that this is sort of a no man's land. But yeah, there's no Russians in this part of the town just yet. But they are trying to attack from the east, as I said. In Siversk, we have some talk of Chechen fighters being sent over there, and there's some footage that they released in the open areas around Siversk, which could probably be around Avdiivka or Verkhnokamianske. There's some people that are marking Verkhnokamianske as fully under Ukrainian control, but I would dispute that, given the clashes that are going on in there. The footage is from probably around here, maybe, if the Ukrainians are right about the map being more like this, then maybe it's going on around here as well. Either way, there's some fighting going on in the area around Siversk, but nothing too big to talk about. You have a lot of fresh recruits being sent towards Siversk and holding the defensive lines to the greatest extent possible. They don't want to give up ground around here. That's it for Siversk. Basically, nothing really new to talk about over there. But we do have some news from Kharkiv area. So I did already talk about Udi and the other town around here, Avdiivka falling. I also heard that Baranivka fell, but I can't confirm this, so I'm not going to talk about that. In Kharkiv, the Foreign Legion, one battalion from the Foreign Legion, was moved to the area around Udi, following the fall of Udi, and this does show that they are trying to reinforce the line. Maybe they're expecting some sort of offensive towards Zolochiv, as I said in the previous video. And there was a base in Zolochiv that was bombed, and Russia, they say that they killed over 100 troops over there, including Polish and German mercenaries. There were 2 explosions also reported around Zhytomyr in Belarus. That's where the missiles came from. And then Zhytomyr is a city around here. So you had some 2 explosions over there. I didn't find any details about what was struck, though. One last thing is that the Ukrainians actually conducted a sabotage operation in Kursk, which is pretty deep into the lines of the border between Russia and Ukraine. So in this area in Kursk, Ukraine, they actually blew up a power line. They blew up the pylons, those sort of like pyramid-esque towers that connect all the power lines. So they blew up those, and those were going towards the nuclear power plant in the area. So they did make some disruptions, and that further backs up the idea that Ukraine does have a lot of sabotage operatives behind the lines of the enemy, and they are conducting these sabotage operations. That's it for the news from today. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.